Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about proportions and what proportions are and how we're going to use them to solve questions. So a proportion is a mathematical equation stating that two ratios or two rates are equivalent, which means that they're the same. So for example, here I have 2/5 and 6/15 are equivalent because if I multiply 5 times 3, I get 15, and 2 times 3, I get 6. So that means that they're equivalent, they're the same. 12 over 24 and 1/2 are the same because if I divide it by 12, I get a half. $2 to 10 prints is equivalent to $6 to 30 prints. So when two ratios or rates are proportional, we can use proportions to find a missing value. Remember, proportional means that they're equivalent or they're the same. So let's solve this first problem. Francine earned $400 for 40 hours of work. How much will she earn for 6 hours of work? So when working with proportions, we're going to include the label ratios. And in any homework, any assignment, any test that you guys take, Miss Lee and I and Miss Aguilar are going to be looking for the label ratio. So here I have, so I'm going to write money, or just the money symbol, over hours. So 400, this is what they're giving me, 400 for 40 hours. And I want to know how much she will earn for 6 hours of work. So my hours are the denominator, so my 6 is going to go with the denominator. So if $400 she earns in 40 hours, now I try to find a scale factor. So I have a 40 trying to get to the 6. Can I do that? No, not using the whole number. So sometimes you're going to have to work backwards to move forward. So what I mean is I'm going to have to find maybe the unit in order for me to multiply it by 6. So I can divide this by 40. So by finding how much money she gets in 1 hour, right? 40 divided by 40 gives me 1. And then I do the same thing. 400 divided by 4, well, that gives me $10. So by finding the unit rate, I can now figure out how much money Francine earns in 6 hours, because I have a 1. I'm trying to get to the 6, well I could just multiply that by 6. So I do the same thing to the top. So 10 times 6 is $60. So she earns $60 in 6 hours. Let's try another example. Mr. Abdullah's new car can travel 360 miles on a 12-gallon tank of gas. How many miles can he travel in 8 gallons? So my labels are going to be miles and gallons. So miles over gallons. So 360 miles in 12 gallons. How many miles? I'm looking for my missing value is miles on 8. So does 12 go into 8? Can I divide 12 by something to get to 8? No. So I'm going to have to work backwards. So I can divide this by, I can divide it by 12 to find how many miles the car runs or travels with 1 gallon. So let's divide this by 12, right? So 360 divided by 12. I'm going to quickly do the math here. 360 divided by 12, that's 3, 36, 0, okay, so 30. So his car travels 30 miles for 1 gallon. Now that I have that information, now I can go and see how many miles he travels with 8 gallons. Oops. So 30 times 8. That's 0, and that is 24. So 240 miles for 8 gallons. So you see, I'm figuring out what the unit rate is in order for me to figure out what they are asking. So I'm working backwards to then move forward. Let's continue practicing. Belinda runs 8 kilometers in 60 minutes. At this rate, how long will it take her to run 2 kilometers? Okay, so we're talking about kilometers and we're talking about minutes. So kilometers over minutes. Okay, so 8 kilometers in 60 minutes, and I want to know how long it's going to take her to run 2 kilometers. So here I have an 8, I'm trying to get to a 2. So what do I do to the 8 to get to the 2? Well, I could simplify it by 4. 8 divided by 4 gives me 2. So what I do to the top, I do to the bottom. So 60 divided by 2 60 divided by 4 equals 15. So at that rate, she takes 15 minutes to run 2 kilometers. And remember, scale factors can be multiplying, can be dividing, either way. Sometimes you do have to simplify this first fraction to then multiply, just like we did earlier today, but you'll still get the same answer. Alright, next problem. To make 5 blueberry pies, Mindy needs 2 pounds of blueberries. How many pounds of blueberries does she need to make 20 pies? Alright, so we're talking about pies over blueberries. It's very important for you to always write your label ratios. Alright, so 5 pies for 2 pounds. I did that totally wrong. Of 50 students. Alright, so red and yellow were the only 2 colors that were being asked to the total number of students. So my whole graph encompasses all students. So I have a total of 50 students that participated, and how many students chose red and yellow? So red is 15 and yellow is 7. Okay, I'm going to take my 15 and my 7 and I'm going to add them together. That's 12. So that's 22 students. Okay, how many students in a class of 250? So if my total was 250, how many students would choose red and yellow? It's kind of like a prediction. So I find my scale factor. So 50 times what gives me 250? Because I have that 0, I can think of it as 5 and 25. So 5 times what gives me 225? Well, 5. If I multiply 50 times 5, it would give me 250. So my scale factor is times 5. So 22 times 5, that is 10, 11. That's 110 students. So out of a class of 250, 110 students would choose red and yellow as their favorite Skittle.